All right. I think everyone has joined. Um, Hi everyone. My name is Kshitij. Welcome to this Minerva University's coffee chat session on the Arts and Humanities major. I myself am an alumni. I graduated class of 2021, and I'm very excited to be here today and walk you guys through the programs that we have and answer any questions that you guys might have. All right, so we do want the session to be interactive, so feel free to drop any questions you have in chat. Feel free to raise your hand, ask me questions directly. Uh, Joanna, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Great. Perfect. Um, so Joanna, you are currently a student at Minerva, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you are doing the Arts and Humanities major as well.
Yes.
Right. So I myself am an alumni. We also have current students on the panel. So if you guys have any questions about the courses, about anything as we walk through the session, feel free to raise your hands to jump in to ask them directly. All right, perfect. Um, so just to give you a little bit of background about Minerva University, I'm pretty sure most of you know this already, but it's a four-year undergrad college based out of the US in San Francisco in California. Minerva is a global rotation program. So every year, the entire class of students, the entire cohort travels to a different country and lives in that country for that entire year. So across the 4 years, you end up living in four different countries around the world while getting a US college degree. So, jumping in to the session, just a little bit of a background about how Minerva approaches academics because we are slightly non-traditional in the way that we believe academics should be conducted and to the students should be taught. So, obviously, the emphasis in the Minerva's educational model is on practical knowledge and what we call active learning, where you learn by actually participating in discussions around topic areas within your classroom and applying these concepts that you're learning in the classroom to real world situations and problems in all of the different countries and cities that you will be living across. So it is meant to be a very engaging, very hands-on approach to education. So Um, in across the 4 years at Minerva, the first year is when you focus on your cornerstone courses, which will be common to all students, regardless of which majors you choose to pursue. Very briefly, these courses will be informal analyses, which focus on critical thinking, logical thinking, statistics, data analytics, rational decision making, all of these factors. Empirical analysis, which focuses on understanding and utilizing the scientific method to frame problems, test hypotheses, and apply the scientific method to analysis and research in general. Multimodal communications, which is a sort of introduction to the ANH major, the Arts and Humanities major. So within multimodal communications, you will be taught how to effectively write for different audiences, how to tailor your communication to the audiences that you're going to be addressing, how to utilize various forms of visual communication and oral expression to communicate ideas effectively, and also a brief study into the role of art and music in how we communicate in today's society. And then the last course will be on complex systems, which aims to teach you a fluency within systems analytics and systems thinking, and how the entire world is multi connected and there are multi-factor integrations, and how you can navigate these complex societies and complex structures effectively. So once we're done with the first year, we will then be delving into you'll be choosing your majors and your minors. And since all of you are here, I'm assuming you are interested in the arts and humanities major. So we'll just do a brief deep dive into what this major is, what are the various concentrations and minors afforded in this major, and how you can go about designing your study within the ANH major across the 4 years at Minerva. Um, so before I jump into that, um, Joanna, would you like to share a little bit about what your majors are and what you are currently studying within the ANH school?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So I'm actually a double major in AH and SS. But for the context of today, I will be a philosophy major, and I've also taken 2 out of 3 concentration classes in history. I might take the last one if I have time, but generally I have good insight, I would say, into the philosophy and the history track. My main major is the philosophy one, though. Um, yeah, any specifics? Sorry.
No, no, that's fine. That's fine. We'll get into specifics as we go across all of the different courses. But thank you so much for sharing that. So I just wanted to also mention to all of you here that a lot of students who do the arts and humanities major will also pair it with another major. So double majoring using arts and humanities is something that's very common at Minerva. Social sciences is generally a very good fit, but we've also had students who would pair that with computational sciences or the business school to allow for different career paths and research tracks moving forward. Okay, so a little bit about the arts and humanities major at Minerva. Um, so the arts and humanities major essentially is designed to help you understand society on a deeper level through the lens of literature, design, philosophy, law, and all of the various schools of thought that we associate with within this sector. So because you are also traveling across so many different places, you will get manifold opportunities to apply these things that you're learning within the ANH classes to engage with the cities that you will be living in and visiting. So, for example, during my multimodal communications class, we were in San Francisco, and one of the projects that we had within that was to work with Beats poets. Which are essentially Beats poetry is a form of poetry very native to San Francisco, very famous, born out of San Francisco. So we got to engage with some of the older Beats poets who were still around and understand how they construct poetry, how they approach social subjects, and how they fit them into the poetic form, and how you should go about thinking about these issues related to migration, gentrification, and all of these different things. So, because you are visiting all of these different countries, you will get plenty of opportunities within your field of study to engage with different museums, art galleries, poetry societies, and a lot of different communities regarding those specific arts major that you pick. So, just doing a brief run through, the historical forces major concentrates on helping you build an understanding of history through the lens of socio-cultural artistic communication. Um, and then we have the philosophy, ethics, and the law major, which wants you to understand how moral issues should be evaluated, how morality in general is developed, and how these philosophies can then be applied to society or to individual decision making. The arts and literature major does a deep dive into the various forms of artistic expression and the various writing styles and techniques that have been developed over the ages, as well as contemporary forms of art. Um, the Joanna, since you have taken the philosophy, ethics, and the law major, would you want to talk a little bit more about what exactly you study in the classes, how this integrates with the cities that you're living in?
Yeah, for sure. I think the focus in the philosophy track is relatively political, which I think is also why it's such a popular pair with the social science politics track. Um, so I think in some other universities you would have like a specialization for like one specific field of philosophy, and I think we try to have it a little broader than that. Um, but in kind of a political lens, which makes it really interesting to apply in the different cities. One of my favorite assignments was a kind of like a I forgot, like a scavenger hunt. They try really hard to make the assignments engaging and also AI proof in a way. So we had to walk around the city and apply concepts that we learned in class directly into our context where we currently are. So we could research a couple of locations before, and then we were communicating with our professor and our TA on Telegram, and we got a little prompt, and then we had, I think, 20 minutes to respond to the prompt, to record a 3 minute or 2 minute video in front of a location, apply the philosophical context and concepts, send it back to our professor, and then she gave us the next prompt, and then we had to find a new location and do the same thing again like 3 or 4 times, which was really fun, made it super relevant to the city and to the concept. And you kind of also learned how it's applicable in real life and how you can kind of like expand on the concept that sometimes in class feels super theoretical. So I think that was definitely one of my favorite assignments in my 3.5 years here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that sort of exemplifies how we approach education in general, because we really want you to apply these theoretical concepts that you read about in class to understanding the cities that you're traveling through and to understanding the world in general. I also remember one of my assignments in Buenos Aires was I had to find a structure within the city that reminds me of any form of political activism. And then I had to do a deep dive into the history of that structure, how those design elements incorporate philosophies from the political agitation movements, and what its role is in in society today, in contemporary society. And that really helped me put together a very deep understanding of cultural relationships within the city, of how the city's dynamics, demographic dynamics, geopolitical dynamics have evolved over time, and how the modern sentiment regarding these monuments within the city as well. So the ANH major is designed for people who are very super curious about the world around them and how it got to be this way. Super curious about how different cultures, how cultural lenses affect perception, and how different cultures view and understand and analyze the world around them, and also are excited to engage with the different communities that they will be getting access to across these 4 years and through the rest of their lives as well. One of my fondest arts and humanities projects that I know a few Minerva students have done is they went around the homeless population in San Francisco. They interviewed them to understand personal stories of why somebody, what is the journey of a person who ends up in this situation, and what are their hopes and ambitions, and how do they tackle the rising gentrification in the city and the rising police tensions. And it was a very interesting dive into understanding the human side of homelessness that we get to observe and live around, so many of us. Um, and obviously, like these types of projects, they're not only are they designed to help you think about the world in a deeper way, but to also question your prejudices, your predeterminations, and your own worldviews as you travel through these different places. Um, Obviously, a lot of students who do the major either do the single major or a double major with ANH and another subject. At the end of the 4 years at Minerva, you have to work on a capstone project, which is a sort of culmination of all of the work that you have done across these 4 years. It is your the main project that you will work on at Minerva. And you have a lot of freedom in designing how you want this capstone project to work for you. It doesn't have to be a research paper, it doesn't have to be an essay. It can be a documentary film, if that is what you choose. It can be an original work of fiction or nonfiction. You can write a book. So a lot of students have engaged in different modalities of how they want their capstone project to turn out, and you are given a ton of freedom to experiment, because that is the point of why we have the project in the first place. So as you go through these majors and go through your courses and travel all of these places, you will also be simultaneously working on your capstone project. And you can, based on what you learn and how your perspectives shift or what new information you uncover, you can design that project to be anything that makes sense to you that you would like to work on full time. We've also seen students who design capstone projects and later went on to do master's programs within those same fields, or started independent companies and independent organizations working on those project areas, because that gave them the direction that they were interested in following for the rest of their career paths. Uh, so Yes, and we offer all of the courses as majors, minors, or electives. Um, so obviously there are some core courses that you will have to take. And after you take the core courses, you can either choose to do a major or you can choose to do a minor, or you can select individual courses as electives alongside your other majors as well. Some of the most popular combinations for ANH double majors are generally students will do philosophy, ethics, and the law, and then they'll pair that with majors like economics and society or politics, government, and society within the School of Social Sciences. Um, or we've also had students who've paired a few of the majors within the arts and humanities schools with computational sciences, and then go into things like data ethics, data privacy, policy design. Currently, AI research policy is another major field that a lot of students are either picking up a minor from the arts and humanities school, pairing it with a computational sciences major, or doing a double major. So there's a ton of flexibility around how you get to design the 4-year curriculum that you want to go through. You can obviously, we've had students do double majors with minors. We've had one student do triple majors, but we do not recommend doing that because it is a ton of work and it will eat up into a lot of your free time. But obviously that is an option. We also had students do double majors with double minors, so plenty of flexibility around that. Um, I think another good point Joanna mentioned was that, like a lot of universities, we are also very sensitive to students using AI to write their assignments and projects for them. And that is not something that we encourage. While obviously it is okay to use AI to research a topic or to help build an outline for the work that you're writing, it is not okay to plagiarize. However, we do want students to be fluent in using AI technologies to assist with their work. So we do ensure that you are aware of all of the ways in which you can utilize these different tools to further uh, your understanding. But obviously, it's not okay to just directly copy and paste from ChatGPT and submit those assignments. Uh, okay, I think that was a brief overview. For the current Minerva students that we have here, would any of you like to share anything, any project within your classes that really excited you, or any way in which one of your assignments helped you engage with the city that you are in a deeper way? Throwing an open question out there. Yeah, Joanna, please.
Yeah. Considering I already talked about my favorite assignment from the philosophy track, I will now present my favorite assignment from the history track. Um, so in a comparative history class, we had to find a location in the city and then analyze kind of its meaning for uh, wow, yeah, well, for the history in the country, for the also its relevance for contemporary politics in the country, which kind of bridges the gap between what history means for kind of the current time. Um, and this was really great because I think I otherwise would have not tried to seek out so many places in the city specifically related to this. And then ultimately, I was in Buenos Aires and I chose the location of ESMA, which is a detention center where a lot of, well, kind of like Holocaust-like torturing happened during the military dictatorship in Argentina. And I think for me, especially as a German, going there, learning so much more about the history, and then also writing it about it and connecting it to kind of how it's currently contested, what the meaning of this is in the Argentinian society. That was really powerful, and I love that they make us pick specific places and learn, kind of do a deep dive into one specific place or one specific landmark or like one specific thing. Because obviously you can't learn everything about a country in such a short period of time that we will go there or be there. Um, but kind of having spotlight knowledge in the country to me makes it so worth it and kind of feel like I still engaged with it deeply, even though I didn't get the full breadth of what Argentina is like while being there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. Kim, would you like to share your experience?
Of course. Hi guys, my name is Cheon. I am an M26 like Johanna. I'm a senior now, right now in Taipei. I'm here because I'm minoring in arts and literature of the AH College. And one of my favorite assignments in that concentration track was for me to synthesize all of the theories that we talked about in terms of creative expression and theory of art, um, and to synthesize all of that into whichever artwork that you're most comfortable in, like films or music or photography or sculpture or anything like that, and investigate into your identity that is associated with the location that you're in. So when this happened, I was in Berlin and I chose to compose like a 4-act symphony because I'm a music person, and I talked about how my identity is linked with Berlin, which is like a new continent and a new city that I was in, and how that intersected with it, and tying with the readings that we looked at in the course as a theoretical concept. I'm happy to answer any more questions if anyone's interested in that track too. But oh, my degree is I'm majoring in social science, specifically cognition, brain, and behavior track, and I'm double minoring in arts and humanities and neuroscience, which is an interdisciplinary track.
Amazing. That sounds super exciting. I think we have a question. Hanan, am I saying your name right? Would you like to?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. I have a question. What is the difference between taking a minor or a major in A&H? Like, how different would the coursework be?
Well, yeah. Cheon, would you like to answer that?
Yes, please. So in general, there are core courses and concentration courses. The core courses are kind of like the basic knowledge in terms of every concentration there is. So philosophy, like ethics, history, and art lit. I think there's also design. You cover the basic foundational knowledge in these core courses. You need to take all of these core courses if you're going to major. And then there are the concentration courses. There are 3 average tracks. So there are like 3 courses in history, 3 courses in art and literature, and so on. If you're minoring in there, you're only taking the core course that you're minoring in, so one of the core courses, and then the 3 concentration courses that are more like less foundational but more like specific knowledge. So you're taking the 4 courses that is 1 core and 3 concentration. Whereas if you're majoring in it, you're taking everything. So you're taking all the cores and the 3 concentration courses that is your major track.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful.
All right.
I think,
We have.
can I add on to this a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Please.
I think a lot of people think that a major or a double major is the right choice for them because it sounds cool. But honestly, I think a lot of people end up dropping their double major to either a minor or just kind of taking different courses. Because as time progresses and you're talking to your classmates that have taken courses before you that you were considering kind of, for example, minoring in if your focus is something else, and then you're talking to the people that chose this major that you're interested in as a minor. Um, and they share their insights about the courses and which ones were their favorites, you sometimes end up thinking, oh, actually, I'm so much more interested in these three specific courses, but they don't combine necessarily to be a major or to be a minor. But they just sound super interesting and way more applicable to, for example, the capstone project that you want to do, but also just your interest. And I think honestly, that's one of the biggest, like, I'm one to talk because I did end up double majoring. Um, but I think that was one of the biggest, like, okay, chill, you don't need to make up your mind now. You can still change this. And if you end up not taking one of the course, especially in an AH field, like in the arts and humanities, people are so much more interested in your expertise, in your creative brain, in who you are as a person, and not so much what ultimately is on your degree. And it's like, oh, you double majored in two things. Like that, I don't think is the final like thing that matters if you are going somewhere in the world after you're studying. Um, so I think very much like take it slow, take the courses, see what interests you, explore the different core courses, and then you decide what you want to specialize in. I think that was one of the biggest yes, Minerva is my place because I didn't need to have my mind figured out. Like in Germany, it's oh, you choose to study this one specific thing, but here you kind of enroll and you still have all the possibilities. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this, that you have time to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that insight. It is true that a lot of students who initially sound very excited at the prospect of doing a double major over the course of their studies realize that I'd much rather do a deep dive into this one subject that I'm studying that I'm interested in, as opposed to just pairing it with a bunch of different subjects and then doing them all together. Also, you have to declare your majors and minors in your second year, and you can keep changing them through the 4 years as you go through these courses. So a really good rule of thumb that a lot of students use is if they're confused about picking up a second major, they'll take a few courses from that major as a minor just to test out the waters and see if they're actually interested in what they're studying. And if they like it, then they can continue to do that as a full-blown major, instead of keeping it at a minor. But a lot of students are interested in breadth over depth. And so they will end up doing a single major but picking up a few different minors across different subjects. So there is a lot of flexibility in how you get to design the 4 years. And also, unlike most traditional education systems where you're pretty restricted in having to make a choice and then stick with that choice across the 3 or 4 years of study, because this is a liberal arts program, you have a lot of flexibility around being able to change your majors, change your minors, pick up, combine different majors and minors. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joanna. Satsuki, yes.
First, please, thank you for your helpful information. And I like to ask, are there opportunities in arts and humanity for students to work with different media or expressive formats like videos, podcasting, or interactive design, and connect them to what they learn through the courses, such as philosophy and history, so on?
Yeah, great question. Joanna, please.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, the deliverable of the assignment that I was talking about was a kind of website and not even just a paper. Like we also had to provide a write-up and then some reflections as a paper. But the actual deliverable was a website. I have made a podcast. I've made 3 videos. I've four probably actually. And there were more assignments where you had the freedom to choose whatever medium you liked. Like sometimes you can write a paper or you can do it in a different medium. Um, so absolutely, there's a lot of and this is in the history and the philosophy track, and I'm pretty sure that in the arts track you have even more flexibility because the idea there is to explore different mediums to express art specifically. But in terms of using art as a mode of communication in the other tracks of the AH College, I think there's still a lot of flexibility there.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Uh, Sorry, please, do you have a follow-up?
Oh yes. Uh, is it only for assignment? Not for their own project? Like, yeah, I, I
Yeah,
yeah.
are you asking if you can like also do it for the capstone, or is it just restricted to assignments?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, because the capstone is super flexible, so you could absolutely do a podcast for your capstone. I can share the example of one of my own classmates. He was a double major in computer sciences and AH, and as his capstone project, he actually wrote an AI algorithm to make original rap songs. So there is ton of flexibility around what you can do with the major and how you can design your capstone. Uh, Zizi, do you have a question for us? I'm sorry if I'm butchering any names. Please correct me.
No, no problem. Thanks a lot for giving me the word. I was wondering, what are the photography opportunities and slash courses offered by Minerva? Because being an international university, I imagine that being in different cities offers a lot of opportunities to do photography, and I was wondering how and if it integrates that to the courses.
Cheon, would you like to take that?
Yes, please. So thanks for the Greek questions. I'm adding on to both uh, questions that were asked right now. So in terms of medium or flexibility, you absolutely can. Like my example was just a symphony, like a musical film that I like left in the comments if you're interested. That was my final assignment. But other people in that class, they were making a game, they were making a website, and they were coding their mental state onto like a field. Like it's numerous possibilities in whichever medium that you like. And in terms of my capstone, because as I said in the comments, I'm like, I have to integrate all four colleges because my like degree is diverse. I am like mapping my neural like signals onto the notes as an instrument and then using that to like represent my mind in a musical format. So like it's very interdisciplinary. My friend who I share the same capstone advisor with, his name is Hike. He's doing a capstone dedicated to photography. So I think that answers Gigi's question. Like it's you can take the foundational things that you're learning and then apply that into whichever medium you like. Minerva being a liberal arts university, it doesn't like give you like a specific tool to work with. It gives you the foundation and the disciplines that you can meddle with in whichever outlet that you like. So like I'm making a film and I'm like mapping my like neural coordinates onto the songs, but my friend is going out to the streets with a camera and capturing people with eating dysmorphia. Like it can be very diverse and you can take the knowledges that you're getting from the courses in whichever direction and topic that you're liking.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Do we have any more questions? Guys, feel free to ask questions. We have two current students who can tell you exactly what they're studying in their courses, what projects they're doing.
Sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Thank you. I'm quite interested in the minor in computer science, majoring arts and humanity. Is it possible? And if it is possible, is there any example?
Um, so you want to do double major in the School of Computer Sciences and the School of Arts and Humanities?
Uh, yeah, I thought so. Like,
Is there like specific majors that you have in mind, or do you just know that these are the two schools that you want?
um, I'm still not sure there is specific um major or like,
Sure.
but
Um,
is it?
yeah, I mean, I can give you examples from things that we've had students do previously. So like I mentioned, we've had students combine the computer science and artificial intelligence major. in the School of Computer Sciences with philosophy, ethics, and the law. And then go into AI regulation, data policy, data security, those sorts of things. People have also combined like some of the other like problem solving with the AH majors. Uh, Joanna, do you have a take that you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's relatively popular actually, to have at least an age minor in combination to computer science because it also makes you stand out. Like, I think there are a couple of stories that were shared recently on LinkedIn or the website or something about people that actually have this combination, where they then got into grad school because their take on computer science is so different because they have this AH background in addition. Um, and they use computer science in a way that just computer science students might not, because to them it's also a bit of an art, or they can use it in an artsy context. I'm really not a computer science person, so I don't really know anything else about that, but I can just share what I know of those people and what I know of my friends, um, where I think honestly any and all combinations at Minerva are absolutely awesome because just combining the different things and making something new out of it in your own brain with your own final project for you as a person, that can be so valuable. And again, just kind of explore what ultimately you're interested in. Honestly, another reason why I actually raised my hand for a more general point, we're also, especially in the AH college, we've stopped focusing on the concentrations. So now you can actually not declare a concentration in the AH college and still be fine. Like you can just literally choose any courses that you like from the Arts and Humanities College. The only constraint is that you need to have satisfied at least one course from every track. But they kind of broke that constraint a little bit because they saw that some people were interested in like only some specific courses and they didn't really know how to combine that, but they still wanted to reward that with a degree because ultimately you still put in the effort and you still did the combining yourself. So that is also something like wait and see. Like after you've done your core courses in computer science where you're like, oh, maybe I'm more a data science person or I'm more artificial intelligence person, then you kind of have your focus there and then you can just see what fits best in combination from the Arts and Humanities College. And we also have wonderful advisors that are happy to help at any and all times. The advisors actually include students and staff and faculty, where I think like the students part of that was recently introduced, which I think is really valuable because you can talk to people who have already taken the courses themselves and are not just kind of like instructors of the courses. And they also can tell you how they combine certain courses as in their own perspective. And then when you have a specific thing like this is what I'm interested in, please, prof, help me which of the three courses that is offered in the history track is most applicable to this, because I'm actually more interested in arts, but I do want that historical component. Where can I best, like out of the three courses, which one fits best with my topic? They will be happy to tell you, and then you can kind of like customize it as you go.
Perfect. I hope that answers the question. All right. Um, Anna. Is it Anna? Is
Hi
it Anna?
everyone.
Sorry.
So I have a kind of, it's not a weird question, but what was your expectations about this course? And what meet your expectations and what didn't meet your expectations? You understand this question?
Yeah, Joanna, Cheon, would any of you like to answer that?
I could start by answering this. So my expectations, or actually, like I did talk about how like powerful of a framework that the arts and literature courses gave you, but I did expect for me to like because I was doing music before minoring in this course. I was expecting a more like medium specific thing. And Minerva, again, like Minerva being a liberal arts college, it doesn't focus on that, but it gives you more of a theoretical lens to how you can approach like arts and literature. Like I'm just gonna be talking about that because that's what I'm doing. But for example, you will be able to read Kant and Schleiermacher or Greenberg or Benjamin, like all the other you'll have a big database of all the relevant scholars, and you'll be able to see and analyze and critique all these scholars' framework and use that as a reflection method to what your creative endeavors are. But then it focuses kind of less on sort of the practical skills aspect, sort of like, oh, like how to use the MIDI, for example, how to like code your own software music programs. However, those things like you can start by exploring yourself, but then there are tutorials in your fourth year or maybe your third year, where the students are allowed to design their own courses and they're like learning from different students who are majoring in different things. So if you're like absolutely interested in learning that in Minerva, you could like ping that as a possible tutorial and learn it like kind of like from your peers. I hope that answers your question. But my expectation was to learn these like very hands-on skills, which were like kind of less explored in the courses of AH College itself, but I had like external means to kind of replenish that need.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think for me, also to respond to that question, I don't know if I had expectations. Now in hindsight, I feel like there are a couple of things where I was like, maybe I had that expectation and now it was kind of met differently. Like for example, saying that I study philosophy, I would expect to come out of it knowing and having read all the big philosophers. And I think because Minerva is set up in a way where we don't really have enough time for this, considering they really value that we are also dipping our toes in the other like world of the AH college. So I like as a philosophy major, I also need to take the historical forces core course and the art and literature core course. And I think that allows for a little bit less time to do such a deep dive. And what I also mentioned earlier, in other universities, you would spend way more time on the one specific major that you picked, where it would be more difficult, for example, to then do a double major or a double concentration or an additional minor. Like I would sit and study philosophy almost all day, every day. And honestly, now that I've done it the way I've done it here, I don't think that would have been the right fit for me. So actually having this bigger picture for me personally is so valuable. But I think that was something that is good to have in your expectation management before, that you won't go out and having read 3 books of Kant and all like all the big philosopher in super depth, but you're more kind of getting the bigger picture, like you're reading excerpts from all of them, and then if you're super into it you can read more and make your assignment about it, but they're not forcing you to, which I actually think is great because in the current day and age you also don't, I mean, okay, in philosophy, did you ever need it, quote unquote? Like, unless you want to go into that specific field and become a scholar in it, you probably never really needed it in the first place. But I think in today's day and age where everything is about connections and you can ask AI pretty much anything about any and all scholars, like Minerva teaches you how to apply the concepts and how to cross-reference things. From the courses, and I think to me that was way more valuable than having super specific knowledge. But people that had studied a bit of philosophy before, I think were a little bit disappointed in the philosophy track because they expected to spend way more time discussing details and going into super much like in depth, like in the context of this big book, what does this specific chapter mean? This conversation is probably not going to happen. But it's more that we study the bigger picture context and then apply it to cases around the world in our own context. So I think that's maybe an expectation to have set before, which to me is totally fine, but for some other people that might not be what they were hoping for.
Thank you for that detailed insight, both of you. We have another question, Hanan.
Yes, I have a question. How do you apply philosophy in real world? What are the contexts that you get and maybe like different assignments you had?
Oh,
Wonderful question.
very interesting question. All right, Joanna, you seem excited. Do you wanna share your insight on this?
Yeah, totally. So I think there are a lot of different contexts also depending on the class that you're taking. But for example, if you're studying there's one course that is about kind of law in the philosophy context. And I think there one of my favorite things to do is kind of take the abstract concepts of how like people from a while ago have conceptualized of how world and how society should work together, what law is supposed to be like, what law means. Like, okay, I don't know in how much detail you want me to go, but I think, and then applying this to how it still works, if it still works today, the way they conceptualized it then, and what the implications of their concept would mean today. Like if today I walked into the government of Germany and was like, no, actually all the laws that exist need to be interpreted in this specific way, what would happen to our society? Or if another thing that we sometimes do is like try to figure out what this specific author of and its specific concept would say about a context today, even though they're kind of abstract from it because they didn't have that context when they lived 200 years ago. But what would they say today about racism, for example? Like obviously they grew up in a time where racism was really differently conceptualized 200 years ago, but today does that concept of how they understood the world might help us solve problems that we're seeing today. And then we sometimes also contrast it with people that are still philosophers today and still come up with new concepts today and are like, okay, were they maybe even inspired by certain things? What had to be developed to get from like this one core concept that, I don't know, Kant conceptualized to how we see it today? What was, for example, justice is a really important topic. What was justice 200 years ago? What was just then? A lot of things were super unjust, but they kind of still tried to make a concept around satisfying their internal cognitive dissonance of like, oh, we're actually mistreating people. Whatever, we just need to find a philosophical concept that says that what we're doing is totally just, and then we're good. So kind of like taking apart what created power structures then by philosophizing in a certain way and how we would need to change it today to kind of disentangle those things. I really hope that wasn't too convoluted.
This is actually so much fun just listening to you talk about it. I think this is something that I would very much be into doing in the future.
That's amazing. Do we have any further questions? Guys, also, what I would really recommend is if you go to the Minerva website, you will see that all of these courses are on there with greater detail into what each major is going to teach you, what individual courses you will be doing as a part of the major, what the minors are. So any of you who are interested in further understanding this, I would really recommend go to the website, check out the majors. Yeah, Hanan, please.
Okay, one more question. This is actually for the three of you. How were your extracurriculars or achievements related to what you're majoring in now while applying? If you remember.
I could start. I just to clarify, when you say extracurriculars, you mean like in high school
Yes.
or before? Okay, perfect. So before when I was applying to Minerva, Minerva was like the only like liberal arts school that I applied to, and everything else was like in theater and performance. And I was not like studying performance in middle and high school, but I was like leaning towards that. Like I was getting scholarships and being in programs like that. And I was like mm, making like theater clubs in high school, for example, and like directing that theater club, which I'm still doing at Minerva through via like a wonderful program called Student Initiatives. But I did, when I was applying to Minerva, I did talk a lot about how I made a student initiative in high school for like English theater work, and then that led me to apply to like a summer camp program, and that led me to a scholarship, and then that led me to like great roles in professional musical theater. Like this sort of pipeline existed for me, which made it very easy for me to like pick this route at Minerva in terms of studying. Like arts seemed very like intuitive for me because that's where my background is. But at Minerva, that pipeline kind of changed and progressed in a way that I didn't expect, because I'm right now studying also like natural sciences and computer sciences through neuroscience. And so I became a very much a data person. And then this like theater pipeline combined with the analytical side, I'm right now focusing in film distribution. And I've like last summer I did an internship at Paramount, like movie studios, and there I was doing data analysis. So very like it's the same pipeline, but at Minerva, like I could have explored this like other dimension that like at high school I wasn't able to. But I hope that answers your questions. Yeah, that my extracurricular activities were pretty much focused in AH.
For me, I tried to remember a little bit what I did. I don't think it was super aligned with this. Like, I mean, I guess a little bit in the context of, I think I also talked about how I was active in like school performances in choir and orchestra and whatnot. And then I guess in my politics background kind of came into play by me being class president in like my district student representative and those kind of things. But on like one of my accomplishments was also that I renovated my living room with my dad. Like, I think it's a matter of framing your accomplishments, honestly. Like, because for me, that was an accomplishment. Like, I sat down with my dad and we planned the whole thing, and then we calculated how much paint we needed, and then we painted the thing, and then we rearranged the books in the bookshelf. And like, that was such a, like, I feel like I have a creative project in my own hand. And like, I guess that kind of plays into being creative. But I don't think I spent a second thinking about how this would apply to my future majors or something. Like I signed up to Minerva because I didn't know what exactly I wanted to study. Like I could have guessed that it went into social science direction because that's what I was interested in and probably would have done if I wouldn't have gotten into Minerva. But I really did want to be my or like give myself the space to explore if potentially there was a computer science girly in me, which maybe there still is, but not in this life. Yeah, honestly, just anything that feels authentic to you can go in these accomplishments if you can explain why it feels like an accomplishment to you. And obviously, if it aligns with something you want to study, then great. But I don't think any pressure at all.
All right, Anna, you have a question?
So I have another question based in what you said. Like Minerva has a holistic style of learning, kind of. And I want to ask you guys, as Johanna said, I don't know, sorry for the mispronunciation, as Johanna said, we have a lot more touch with other majors than we have on traditional colleges. So what is your favorite part about this style of learning? And do you prefer the traditional way of learn that like specific on one field? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. There's also a question in the chat that says, aside from the fact that Minerva is so flexible with its coursework and you get the chance to talk with people around the world, what are any other pros of studying AH at Minerva, or what the AH offers to students? Yeah, I think that goes in a similar direction, I guess. Like, because I think to me, the answer to this question would probably be the learning style and the fact that you can make it like it's so practical. You do get the chance to write papers, but honestly, in the age of AI, writing papers is kind of getting redundant a little bit, I would say. And I think there are like I think the way our system is so flexible gives us a lot of way to address this by just making projects more creative. This I don't know. This might seem a little bit like a um are you actually studying real things if I'm not saying this? But one of my assignments that I had last week was I had prepared studying my philosophers and like just learned about their concepts, but I didn't memorize when they were born or anything. And then I went into the office of our student life team, and our TA that was in the city sat down with us and read a children's book to us. And then we had an hour of applying our philosophers' context to the meaning in that children's book. And we needed to apply, or like we needed to understand what was kind of the deeper quote unquote philosophical meaning behind that, like in that children's book, and what conceptions of justice we can find in there. And then we had an hour to actually write in person with a pen on paper. We had to like give the TA our laptops and whatnot. And then we sat and wrote with a pen on paper. That felt so nostalgic because I haven't done that in 3 years. But that was great, and that is such a like cool way of applying the concepts. Because honestly, what will I use philosophy for in my life unless I'm going into grad school and studying in there deeper and then wanting to become a professor? Probably in how to make arguments and how to understand what an argument is. And there are arguments in children's books. If you want to understand how kids are being educated, you need to start at the very beginning by analyzing children's books. Like what knowledge is being presented to them, how can we frame certain things, which I think for me personally, that also felt relevant because I have a quite young brother. So that was such a beautiful way to me to apply this skill. And I knew I understood what the philosophers meant by applying them to such a simple children's book. Because if I can make a reference between something complicated and something simple and make it make sense, then I think I understood it.
Absolutely. One of the philosophies we have at Minerva is you have to frame things in a way that you can explain them to a 5-year-old. And that really brings out that you have understood the core of the argument or the issue well enough to communicate it in a very simple way. Yes, Satsuki, I believe you'd raised your hand.
Yes. Yeah. I just asked the Chuang gave me the their new interdisciplinary minor called Digital Humanities, and I wonder, is there any information on the website? Like
Regarding the digital humanities minor?
yes,
Yeah, you should be able to find it on the website. Let me know if you're having any trouble and I can find the right link for you.
yeah. I uh searched it, but I couldn't find a specific website, or yeah, which page is the um can be I can browse the about the digital humanities.
Yeah, sure. Just do one thing. At the end of the session, we'll share our contact info. Just send me an email and I'll send you the link to the information.
Thank you. It's very helpful.
No problem. Perfect. Yes, Zayad.
Yes, thank you so much. So my question is for Cheon. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name. So you mentioned that you're directing a theater club, Minerva, and I wanted to ask how you're managing that, since I'm assuming you don't have a stage or like a set place that you're always staying at. Because I'm currently in a gap year and I'm traveling, and I've had to ditch theater completely this year. So I just wanted to ask about that.
No, that's a wonderful question. Thanks for asking. And that's honestly a very good example of how Minervans like engage with their rotation cities outside of what Minerva provides you as a academic framework. So we started in Seoul semester, and I am South Korean, so it kind of gave me a leverage because I was already working in the theater field in Korea, and I utilized my network to like kind of get my friends to help me, get my like ex coworkers to help me, and we had a wonderful stage in like this area where a lot of venues are at in front of like a university, and we were able to invite all our Minerva friends and staff members and the friends that we made in rotation cities in Seoul. And then after that, we went to Berlin and then to Buenos Aires, and in each cities we like from the beginning of the semester we were like searching and scouting for the venues that could host us. In BA, we found a wonderful Shakespeare play venue, just like somewhere randomly in the city, and we got them to collaborate with us, and we were like kind of like helping with their social media, and they were helping us get the venue and vice versa. It was a wonderful place with vodka machines and stuff. And in BA, we partnered up with this university, which lended us their auditorium and their microphone setups. So yeah, like really utilized really what the city could offer us, and talked a lot with the student life team, which are kind of like the staff members that reside in the city. And obviously because they have lived there and they're like sometimes from that city, they have more like city relevant knowledge than me who just moved there. So that's kind of how we managed it. And like it's really like a face down exploration of like what sort of venues and resources that we can utilize in every single rotation city. Hope that answers the question.
All right, Kwong? Sorry if I'm butchering your name.
You pronounced it correctly.
Oh, I did? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I was about to ask, during the Minerva, do you guys witness any major change in yourself? When was the moment and how does it change your path after that moment? Yeah.
Wait, could you I think for me the audio was a little bit bad in the first half. I understood the second half of like how did something change after that moment? What moment? Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's a problem on my end. They're doing some construction things, but I was asking, do you guys witness any major change in yourself? Like what's the moment and what how did you change your path after that sort of moment? Yeah.
Okay, one more confirmation that I changed my major or a major change happened to me.
I think he's saying, did you notice a major change within yourself
Yeah?
through Minerva, and what was the moment? Am I correct?
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
I think actually this ties in a little bit about my capstone, so I can do a little plug there. I'm writing my capstone about German national identity, and I think that is something that very much majorly changed for me in my time of being here. Before I don't like I've left Germany once for 7 months to go on an exchange semester. But like I just went from Germany and stayed in I was in Australia for that time. And I think because that was my first exposure, I didn't really think about me as a German in that context a lot, but just me as, oh, how am I being an international student? So coming to Minerva, being exposed to so many different cultures and people from different countries, and just being friends with so many different people that constantly mirror to me what their national identity is, what my national identity is in their conception in a way, like, oh, you're so German. And I'm like, what makes me so German again? Oh, you're so European. I'm European. Like I think that those are questions that I've just never really asked myself before. Like being in Germany, sure, I have technically like European citizen plus is on my passport, but that never really had any impact on my life until people mirrored to me that it can have such a big like impact on my life. And I think realizing this, and also actually one of the Minerva assignments is about writing about your national identity in first year. And I think being exposed to this through other people and through the assignments changed me a lot and actually inspired me to make my capstone project about it, so other people can question their national identity too, even if they're not going abroad.
Yeah, I think identity questioning is sort of so one of the first things that happens when you join a Minerva class, when you have such a diverse class, people from so many different countries. Uh, it's fantastic. All right, Raisya.
Oh, hello. Thank you for the opportunity. So, as I know, Minerva is a non-traditional university that use active learning methods and applies them directly to the community. And I want to ask about in this major, how does Minerva guide the students to apply artistic and literary perspectives to real societal challenge? And for instance, like using public art or digital media to promote social awareness or cultural dialogue within the communities they engage with during global rotation. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Do we have any takers?
I would love to take it, but I think you cut off at some point for me. Would it be so hard? Would it be difficult if I asked for you to rephrase the question?
No, sure. Raisya, would you like to rephrase your question?
Okay, so I wonder how does Minerva guide students to apply artistic and literary perspective to real societal challenges?
How
Oh
does
yeah,
Minerva guide students to apply artistic perspectives to real socio-cultural challenges? Am I
perfect.
all right, perfect.
Yeah, I could start taking that. So I think it has to do with my capstone a lot. It resonates with me. In arts and literature courses, I was mostly focused on, because I said I'm interested in film distribution and the socioeconomic dimensions in that. So I mostly focused less on social impact and social challenges, but more focused on analyzing like the film landscape, how to treat art as a commodity, how to treat that as like a business sector, and how money flows and goes and stuff like that. But because I'm also majoring in cognitive science, I have a lot of like room to explore about mental health and therapy. So for my capstone, I'm focusing on making psychoimmunology less invisible. Because right now, when people are having physiological symptoms such as like an autoimmune disease like lupus, for example, or when people have like severe like headache, or when they have inflammation in their body, they'll mostly blame it on hormones or like some random physiological impact. But sometimes that can be from your mental health, and because that you didn't take care of that properly. So I'm using film and narrative sharing technology and music to shine a light in that. And instead of writing a research paper, I'm making a film, because I believe that even to like scientists and researchers, making a film and connecting with the narratives instead of the facts are more like going to be emotionally resonant and powerful. So I hope that answers your question, because this is like a low-key a case of how mental health is impacting like depression rate and inflammation in your physical sense in a global scale, and treating that in like artistic lenses.
I think
Thank
adding
you.
on this, oh yeah, sorry, adding on this 1 minute. I think after that I need to log off, but um, yeah, I think honestly all of the arts and humanities courses will give you a space to apply this. Um, like you can make pretty much anything relevant to a current social issue. Because this is kind of the context that Minerva's Arts and Humanities is framing itself. And one of the reasons why we wouldn't go into sorry, no, a ton of depth about the like Kant, for example, and reading the whole book, but rather extracting a couple of the concepts and then applying it to current issues. Like I think this is the value of, or the framing of the value of the Arts and Humanities College at Minerva, like giving you tools in different domains to kind of apply it to current world problems. And I think I forgot what the exact pitch is of Minerva at this point, but like, critical thinkers, world leaders, problem solvers, like this is kind of exactly the context in which they are trying to achieve this, giving us tools in these domains to then apply it to current problems. And all of my assignments, I think, have been in some way or another related to current day political issues, social issues. In class, we talk about, I don't know, in my philosophy classes, intersectionality. We talk about racism. We talk about the like justification of what I said before, I forgot the word, colonialism, and how that still impacts today. We're talking about history and how historical silences are created in history, and who is allowed to speak up and tell their story and who isn't, and how, as people interested in history, we have a obligation to people to listen to their stories, and how can we frame our historical inquiries better to address different sides and to also pay attention to the hidden stories. All of these things, which I think are super relevant to today issues as well.
Perfect. That was wonderful. Thank you everyone for attending the session. We're a little over time, and both of our Minerva students have to go and explore the cities they're in, so we have to let them go as well. But thank you all of you for joining. If you guys have any questions, the emails are on the screen. Feel free to reach out. And we do upload the recordings of these sessions on YouTube. There are a few previous sessions there as well, so feel free to go check them out if you have any questions. Also, do go on the website because you will get a deep dive into all of the individual majors and minors on the website. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you for a wonderful session and for all of your questions.